In this video, I'm going to cover the basics of Scrum. My goal is for you to have a better understanding of the core concepts of Scrum and, much more importantly, the core of value-centric Scrum. By the end of this video, you'll know what I mean when I say focus on the 3-5-3, but put even more focus on the 3-5-3-5, and how that simple difference can mean the difference between Scrum is dead and twice the work in half the time. So, let's get started with Scrum in a nutshell. Scrum as a framework is easy to learn but challenging to master. It transforms the way we think about creating value and getting work done. When you start your Scrum journey, you will quickly learn that there are always ways to improve yourself and your team. No matter how long you've been on that journey, you can always get better. At the heart of Scrum is the inspect and adapt cycle found in empiricism. That puts experimentation and continuous improvement at the center of Scrum and is a huge part of why Scrum works. So let's start at the beginning. Scrum, with all of its complex simplicity, begins with 3-5-3. And from what I said at the start, great Scrum starts with 3-5-3-5. So what the heck do I mean by 3-5-3-5? Well, let's start with the 2 3s in the sequence, and then we'll end with the 2 5s. The first 3 stands for the 3 roles in Scrum. Scrum starts with small, stable teams working together to solve problems. It identifies 3 distinct roles that must be present on a team for that team to succeed. These roles work together and balance power across the team so that each team member can focus on creating value and solving problems and delivering on the team's mission. The first role we'll explore is the product owner. As you can probably tell from the title, the product owner owns the product. More specifically, they own the vision of where that product is going, or what should be different about the world when the team delivers its work. The product owner is responsible for maximizing the value that is created by the team, and they do this by connecting users or customers of a product with the team that is creating the product and communicating a clear vision of why this product exists and how it will change the world. The product owner builds empathy for their customers by walking in their customers' shoes. They get out and they spend time with the customers, and they bring the team and the customers together so that the team can build empathy and compassion for their users. We coach that powerful product owners will spend half of their time with their customers and the other half of the time with their team. And when they do this, they are better able to focus the team on the next experiment the team should run or the next problem the team should try to solve. And when they do this effectively, the team can create value for their customers by relieving their customers' pain points. Next up, we have the Scrum Master. I want you to picture the teams you've been on in your past, whether it be a software delivery team, a sports team, or just a group of friends trying to go on vacation. How much better would your experience on that team have been if they had someone whose sole job it was to help them get better as a team? That's what the Scrum Master does for the Scrum team. They focus on helping that team play great Scrum, work efficiently, and focus on continually getting better at how they work together as a team. They're a servant leader that helps that team bust impediments or the things that would keep them from getting work done, and they help that team always focus on how well they are performing together as a team. I like to say that the Scrum Master often becomes a team's coach, their family therapist, their cheerleader, and their defender. You know you have a great Scrum Master when you see a team that is continuing delivering faster and getting better over time. The final role of that team is the role of the team member themselves. The Scrum team members are the ones that actually solve the problems that the product owner brings to them and deliver the product. You'll notice I didn't say anything about the front-end developer, the business analyst, the quality analyst, or the artist, or whatever other job titles you might think belong on a team. In Scrum, we do not win or lose as an individual. We win or lose as a team. It is the team that commits to delivering the work, not an individual. So while we actually have people that might be strong in certain areas, such as front-end development or whatever else, we want cross-functional team members. Or we often like to say that we want T-shaped team members. T-shaped means that while someone might excel in a particular area, they go deep. They have understanding of all the work that needs to happen to deliver on the team's commitment. So those are the three roles in Scrum. The product owner who maximizes the value created by finding the right problems to solve. The Scrum Master who maximizes the speed at which the team works by helping them focus on playing the game better. And the team members, the ones who actually deliver on the vision of the product owner. Now let's move on to the next three, or the three artifacts or outputs that a Scrum team will build. First up in the list of artifacts is a prioritized list of all the problems, experiments, features, functions, anything the product owner wants to have the team build. We call this list the Product Backlog. And while anyone can add things to the backlog, it's the product owner that gets to decide where those items or things are going to get prioritized. At the top of the backlog are the things the product owner wants the team to work on next. As things get a little bit lower in the backlog, it's not unusual for them to become more substantial. At the top, you want small chunks of work that can easily be accomplished in a short amount of time. The team will have to work together to make the product owner's large ideas smaller, but we're going to talk more about that later. Next up, we have the Sprint Backlog. While the product owner owns the Product Backlog, it's the Scrum team that owns the Sprint Backlog. This backlog is a subset of product backlog items, PBIs, or just things on a backlog. It represents the commitment, what the team is committed to getting accomplished in a period of time, or what we call a sprint. At the start of a sprint, the team commits to the highest value work from the product backlog and moves those ideas into a sprint backlog. Finally, we have the product increment. The product increment is simply the sum of all the work the team does during a sprint. It's the outcome of a sprint and should solve the problems of real users and be built in a way that the product owner can get feedback. We want to release working product to real users so that we can generate value and feedback for our customers and inspect and adapt on our product. Product increments build on each other, and they represent the validated learning of the Scrum team on how they can best solve real users' problems. We say that every product increment is potentially shippable. That means every product is complete at the end of each sprint and can, if the product owner elects to, be delivered directly to customers. Remember, at the heart of Scrum is empiricism, and for that to work, we have to be able to inspect and adapt and ensure that we are actually solving problems, not just creating junk. So, we've talked about the 2 threes of Scrum. Let's see how the roles and the artifacts fit together to actually get work done. The first 5 in the 3-5-3-5 stands for the 5 events. The first event we're actually going to talk about is actually a word you've heard me say a couple of times already. It's the sprint. Simply put, the sprint is just a period of time. It should be somewhere between 1 week and 1 month, but the best teams use shorter cycles so that they can get more feedback and more opportunities to get it right. The sprint is a time box, and it holds all of the other events. But before we get to the next 4 events, I want to circle back on the work the team has to do to make those big PBIs small. This is a bonus event or an activity. It's something that happens as often as the team needs, but we tend to see that healthy teams spend around 10% of their time doing this. We call this activity Backlog Refinement. During Backlog Refinement, the team works with the product owner, users, subject matter experts. The product owner ensures that the team has anyone they need to understand the problem or experiment they are trying to complete. Their goal is to make big things small. It's to take the large ideas, the vision, the features, anything on the backlog that is large, and turn them into something that can be accomplished inside a sprint. Ideally, the team wants about 2 to 3 sprints worth of PBIs or backlog items refined at any given time. This ensures that they have lots of options to pick from as they accelerate and complete their sprint backlog commitment. So, let's take a look at our happy product owner. Great product owners actively seek out feedback and ideas on what their team could possibly work on. But great product owners also practice one very important word: no. We want to practice simplicity, or, according to the Agile Manifesto, the art of not doing work. We want to focus our team and help ensure that they're working on the right thing. So to do that, and to do that effectively, the best product owners are experts at saying no and determining what items they should actually answer yes to. When they say yes to an idea, that idea becomes a product backlog item. It goes into the backlog and the team refines it over time until it's ready to go into a sprint. At the start of a sprint, the team, along with the product owner and Scrum Master, come together to determine what work should be done next. The team will determine how much work they can get done during a sprint and will come up with a plan for where they want to go. This is the first event of a sprint. It's time boxed to around 2 hours per week of sprint. Imagine that if you're planning to take a trip. When you're planning that trip, you want to have a goal of where you'd like to go. You want to understand what you can afford and what's most important for you to hit, and have a rough idea of what you'll need to get there. Sprint planning works precisely the same way. The team works to come up with a goal and how they're going to get there, and this is represented as a sprint goal and a sprint backlog. But, like every great plan, it's subject to change. Speed bumps are going to happen along the way. Things will get you off track. So just like a great road trip, you evaluate your plans each step of the way and ensure that things are addressed to ensure that you'll meet your original goal. So the next event allows the Scrum team to do just that, to determine if they are on track to achieving their goal. This event happens every single day. It lasts no more than 15 minutes, and we call it the Daily Scrum. The two outcomes of the Daily Scrum is a determination on what needs to change to ensure that the team is on track to meet their goals, and a plan on how that team will work together that day to accomplish their sprint goal. We've hit on the first three events: the sprint itself, sprint planning, and the Daily Scrum. Let's talk about what happens at the end of a sprint. Remember that Scrum is all about frequently inspecting and adapting to determine if you're on the right track. The last two events of a sprint offer the team two critical opportunities to inspect and adapt. The first of these events, or the fourth Scrum event, is the sprint review. The sprint review is facilitated by the product owner and is time boxed for 1 hour per week of sprint. During the review, the product owner ensures the right people are in the room to allow the team to get feedback and input on what was accomplished during the sprint. During this event, the team will focus on the product and look in two directions. They will look backwards at what happened during the sprint, and they should look forwards and look ahead at where they could possibly go next. Often the team will deliver a demo of their product increment, but the primary goal of the sprint review is to get feedback on where their backlog should change and what should come next, and how they could better deliver value to the customer in future sprints. Finally, we have the Sprint Retrospective. Where the review is facilitated by the product owner, the Scrum Master facilitates the retrospective. It's a time-boxed event that lasts 45 minutes per week of sprint, and it's a safe space where the team can come together to look at how well they performed as a team and learn what they can do to try to get better. While this should always be an open and honest meeting, it's essential to note that every single team on the face of the planet, regardless of how good they are, can always get better. The primary outcome of the retrospective is the Kaizen, or an experiment, something the team is going to try and will put at the top of their backlog during the next sprint. This experiment is a specific thing. It's something the team can do and will hopefully allow the team to get better in the next sprint. Sometimes the Kaizen will work and the team will improve in some facet. But other times the Kaizen actually won't work, and we're okay with that. These are experiments, and the team should be allowed to take chances to stretch themselves. Effective Scrum Masters will work to encourage the team and help the team focus on how they could always be getting better. That's it. After the retrospective, the team starts the next sprint and continues this cycle. That's the 3-5-3, the three roles: the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team member. The three artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. And finally, the 5 events: the sprint, Sprint planning, the Daily Scrum, the Sprint review, and the retrospective, and that bonus activity, Backlog Refinement. If you implement that, then you're playing Scrum. But far too often I hear people complain and describe the horror stories of Scrum implementations. Jeff Sutherland, one of the co-founders of Scrum, says that the number one enemy of Scrum is not waterfall, but bad Scrum. And in my experience, most bad Scrum happens when the team forgets the most crucial part of the 3-5-3-5. Great Scrum doesn't start with how you get things done. It begins with 5 core values, fundamental shifts in how we view and interact with each other. The last 5 are the 5 core values. These values build on one another and create an environment of empowerment and freedom that will allow your team to work together and ensure great team engagement. The first value we're going to look at is openness. Remember, Scrum is built on empiricism. Empirical processes require transparency to inspect, adapt, and improve. Open teams agree to be transparent about all the work that is going on and everything that could be and is preventing them to accomplishing that work. The spirit of openness is a cornerstone of Scrum and changes how organizations handle making all results and all work visible so that they can be open to feedback, and that feedback pushes the organization forward. Next is courage. Courage to be open. Courage to try new things, to solve tough problems, and to do the hard thing. Courage allows you to be open to improvement, and organizations that want the best team must seek to build actual psychological safety based on courage and vulnerability. Leaders of those organizations must be willing to be vulnerable and model courage to their teams. Without courage, your teams will be hindered as they seek to improve and work on genuinely challenging issues. Organizations that seek to be open and courageous must have respect. Leaders must have respect for their teams and must understand that their teams are capable and able to solve the problems that they are faced with. Teams must have respect for leaders and understand that leaders are humans that sometimes fail. Team members must also have respect for each other regardless of background. The best teams and organizations are based on respect, and they appreciate each other. This mutual respect and acceptance fosters psychological safety and is critical for building influential and healthy organizations. Next, we have commitment. A culture of commitment is based on individuals committed to working as part of a team. They're committed to achieving the goals of that team. And commitment requires buy-in from individuals and investment in the direction of the organization. Commitment allows organizations to work at the team level instead of micromanaging individuals and helps them build respect, openness, and courage. Finally, we have focus. Focus is the ability to channel a team's efforts into working on the highest value things one at a time, without the distractions that weaken a team's efforts. I often tell the story of parents who got their kid a magnifying glass for Christmas. Those parents learned the power of focus when they had their Christmas plans ruined when their child caught their front yard on fire with that magnifying glass. Focus is powerful, and it allows teams to deliver their commitments to solving your customers' problems. So there you have it. The fundamentals of value-centric Scrum, or the 3-5-3-5 of Scrum. Scrum is a powerful tool. It's radically changed how we get work done. It's simple in its concepts, but it allows you to continually improve and get better no matter how long you do it. I'm often asked what the single most crucial part of Scrum is. And while that's difficult to point out just one thing, I'll leave you with this. Scrum focuses on continually getting better. If you are better today than you were yesterday, and tomorrow than you are today, then you'll fall behind. This path to improvement challenges you to improve no matter where you are in life. So enjoy the journey. And thank you for joining me for Scrum in a Nutshell.